Hello people of YouTube, it's Deepak here, and welcome to DCS World 2.7.17 and Split Air's OV-10A Bronco module. This is another video in my series on community mods. This is a recently released mod of the North American Rockwell OV-10A Bronco. This is an aircraft that first flew in 1969, and it was probably one of the first dedicated airborne forward air controller aircraft, but it's also capable of light CAS. It's a twin turboprop aircraft. It can loiter for more than 3 hours, and it was used quite a bit in the Vietnam War. It's got 5 kind of central pylons. I'm actually carrying rocket pods on 2 of them. It's capable of carrying bombs and rocket pods, primarily. It also has 4 machine guns, also mounted in those little stubs, and the wing pylons can carry sidewinders for self-protection. In this case, the AIM-9P, which is an older rear aspect-only version of the missile, but period appropriate. This aircraft is also capable of carrying paratroopers. In that configuration, the rear dome is removed, and I think 4 or 5 paratroopers can actually be carried in that cabin behind the pilot, which is rather cool. And like I said, also capable of light CAS operations. This aircraft was flown by the US until 1995, and it still flies today with some civilian operators and with the Philippines Air Force, but it has flown with various different air forces. This is version 1.0 of the mod, and the mod makers have already said that they're intending to work on a version 2.0 as well. It has a full EFM, seems to be a pretty decent flight model as well, and the cockpit is nicely modelled and mostly clickable, but not entirely. There are a number of systems as yet not yet simulated, but I expect they will be in the future. Oh, what's that cow doing there? I think really nice model exterior, really nice textures as well, in my opinion. And it flies quite nicely. The gear is really nicely modelled too. Get a lot of bounce out of it, which is cool. So let's jump into the cockpit, and if you've flown the A-10A, you're going to feel quite at home here. I think we can all see where, where the original Warthog designers got their inspiration. Down the right-hand console, most of the right-hand console is not simulated. We do have internal lighting here at the rear, but what look like transponders here are non-functional. The marker controls, nope. Nav radio, no. Bleed air doesn't work. Compass doesn't work. Battery disconnect switches. IFF, none of that's modelled. We also can't open the canopy at present. These switches in the right-hand cockpit for the fuel system and pitot heaters and so on do not work. We do have external lights, however. Those do work. The TACAN works. Most of the stuff in the front cockpit is functional, including the weapons select system, master arming system, sorry, and weapon settings. The front UHF doesn't work. TACAN does work, however, and most of what's in the left console does also work. So you've got your electrical panel here, used for startup, throttle and prop condition levers, they all work. Secondary flight control stuff like flaps and trim, this all works. And then the radios at the back here, the FM and the intercom, these do not work. But who knows, maybe they're coming in a later update. Oh, and the controls above the gun sight also work. No HUD in this aircraft, it was never designed to have a HUD, but it does have an adjustable gun sight, so you can get quite accurate with your weapons in a dive. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and start the aircraft up. Startup is really simple. This is a very, very simple aircraft. Doesn't have that many systems. It really is mostly designed to be an airborne observer. First thing we're going to do is turn the battery switch on. That causes some of the indicators to come to life. This is gear indicator and flap indicator. We've got green showing that we've got 3 down and locked. We're going to turn on left and right generators. We're going to put the left and right crank switches to on. And I'm going to turn on the inverter, although that's not actually in the checklist. Okay, so procedure for starting the engine. Engine instruments are here on the right-hand side of the cockpit. We've got torque, RPM, and temperature of the exhaust for left and right engines. Fuel quantity here as well. You can see we've got a 50% load. What we're going to do is we're going to move the starter switch for the right engine into run and then into start. We're going to monitor that the RPM is increasing, and as it passes 12%, we're going to move the condition lever out of shutoff. We should then see light and RPM continuing to climb, and as it passes 22%, we're going to turn the starter switch to run, and the engine will continue to climb and stabilize. And there you go. Pretty simple. The only kind of interesting detail being in this aircraft, the starter does not click off automatically. You have to manually turn the starter off lest you damage it. So that's right engine started. We'll repeat for the left. Moving it into start, RPM climbing, passing 12%, move the condition lever, and passing 22%, starter to run. And with that done, we're going to go ahead and turn on nav lights, anti-collision, and the taxi light. And I'll also get the TACAN programmed up. This is for Mount Pleasant, just in case we decide to go there. We're not currently getting a signal out of it. And let's also turn on the gun sight. It's quite a handy little reference. And that's us. We have left and right engines running, perfectly happy. I'm going to move the prop levers to high, and that's the standard position you're going to use for takeoff and landing. One thing to note, the aircraft doesn't have a parking brake, and it also doesn't have wheel chocks, so if you're on tarmac it will roll under power. Luckily, I'm on grass here today. It's a very capable aircraft, very capable of short takeoffs and landings, so it's very happy on short grass runways. So I thought I'd take it onto a short grass runway today and test it out. Flight controls are mostly conventional, although it's a twin tail. One thing to note is that you do have spoilers, so as you roll the aircraft one way or the other, the spoilers open on the dropping side. You can see that on the tops of the wings there. Quite an interesting design. Although I don't know if this is a bug, but the air brake switch doesn't work. So let me actually double check that. I can't seem to find any way of extending those without rolling. I guess you could call them spoilers, but no, they don't show up as spoilers. If I do a search for brake, there is air brake on, air brake off. I've mapped those, but doesn't seem to work. There's a category called Bronco Systems. Oh, there's a button for windshield wiper. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's map that then, because the switches in the cockpit don't seem to work. Cool, alrighty. So let's give that a go. Oh, there we go. Nicely modelled. Okay, we've got a windshield wiper. Okay, right, let's get the aircraft going. Now, one thing to note is that it has no nose wheel steering. We're going to use differential braking today. And I'm going to use every last little bit of the runway. Because it's quite a short runway. The grass is quite draggy. So I want to make sure that I have a good run up here. This is the South Atlantic map, and if we decide to... Oh, no, I turned a bit early. If we decide to, we could do a flight to Mount Pleasance. I also have smoke rockets installed in the aircraft, which would be quite commonly used for marking targets. And the guns are loaded, and I'm carrying the Sidewinders, so I'll quickly demonstrate how to bring all of these up. The aircraft is kind of simplicity itself to operate. There's really not that much going on here. Okay, so I'm on the toe brakes, going to run up to full power, off the brakes, and initially you're going to use the toe brakes to keep it going straight, and then transition to rudder. We're going to rotate at about 100 knots, and we're going to climb out at 120. We do have rising terrain to our front, so we have to be a little bit careful here. Ooh, there we go, got it airborne. Gear up. That was a bit marginal. That's quite a short runway. And we're going to bring up one stage of flaps. Oh, actually I had the flaps up the whole time. That's bad. Very bad. Gave us a quicker takeoff anyway, I guess. So, we're up in the air. That worked. Let's turn off that takeoff and landing light. And we're going to climb out at 120. And we're going to make a climb for about... let's go for 6,000 feet initially. Yeah, aircraft's handling quite well. The last time I flew it, I actually had a lot more weight on. And you could feel it. It is a very, very light aircraft. It doesn't carry that much payload and so the difference between being heavily laden and not is quite noticeable. Ah, there we go, the TACAN is working. So this wide pointer here is actually pointing towards Mount Pleasant, and we're showing about 41 nautical miles. Let's fly in that direction anyway, even if we don't actually make it all the way out there. It'd probably take us a bit of flight time to get out to there. So aircraft handles really nicely. Climb performance was pretty good off the bat, as you saw there. I'm not particularly heavy today, so that would be a factor. Oh, I should have already rolled out. And just trim it a little bit. One thing I would say is that maybe the dirt on the canopy is a little bit overdone. It's nice, like it's a nice little bit of flavour, but I think if I had to spot enemy aircraft or anything like that, I would probably find it a bit annoying. But hey, you know, each to their own. And no autopilot on this aircraft, you just need to trim it out. It is very, very easy to fly though, so you know, I'm just flying it with my fingertips here, and using the trim tab. Pretty easy. Passing 5,000, and like I said, I'll continue to 6,000 and then level out. Standard set of instruments here. You know, I've got airspeed, altitude. I've got my my attitude, my direction. I've got my vertical speed. It's all pretty standard and easy to follow. Okay, and let's get this leveled out here. Maybe bring the power back just a little. And I'm going to bring the condition levers back a bit just to get the props at a nice speed. There. And I guess this would be a kind of cruise configuration now. Let's see what we're going to get out of this in this setting. What speed is it going to go to? So yeah, I'm guessing it's probably going to cruise somewhere just over 200 knots. That's what it looks like it's going to do, which is fine. For an aircraft like this, and pretty good endurance. It'll stay airborne in a configuration like this for quite some time, I would think. So there you go, there's the beast in the air, OV-10A Bronco. So while we're making this crossing, let's take a quick look at the weapon selectors and how all of that works. You've got left and right wing stations here, those are for the sidewinders. And then underneath the fuselage you've got stations 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Today I've got rocket pods on stations 2 and 4. And I'm also carrying the sidewinders on the wing stations. We can arm left and right sets of guns and turn on the master arm. Then we simply need to pull the trigger. And there you go. We even have simulated ejecting casings here, which is pretty nice. So perfect for soft targets. Of course it's not going to be penetrating any armor particularly, but that's fine, not really the mission for this type of aircraft. And then yep, we could go ahead and arm the sidewinders and we get that classic sidewinder growl. All you would really do is you're going to get behind your target. These are rear aspect only. They also don't really pick up heat signatures from helicopters. You're going to put the gun sight on your target, you're going to wait for tone, and then you're going to pull weapon release. I just fired one without a lock there. We'll do that again from the outside. Whoosh! And our sidewinders are away. Let's deselect those, and let's go ahead and select my rocket pods now. So I've got the standard setting of 17 mils, or 17 times 10, so I guess 170 mils. That's actually pretty good for a normal sort of diving attack. Master arm is on. These could actually be fired now. I'll actually demonstrate. Whoosh! And our little covers fly off the rocket pods just like that. Let's set the aircraft up for higher speed flight, and let's dive down towards the terrain and mark the ground with these. And I'll then demonstrate how to land this aircraft, because it's very, very light. Pretty much anywhere that's flat enough you can land this aircraft. It's perfectly capable of using roads, fields, you know, pretty much anywhere. I've also seen people taking off and landing on things like the Tarawa. Oh, getting a bit of jiggle as we fly fast. So, a couple of practice rockets off, let's see what they do. Didn't see an impact, let's try that again. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you get little splashes. I was hoping these were smokes, but they're actually not. They're just practice rockets. So they just make little puffs where they land. That's us out of rockets. Aircraft is quite manoeuvrable when you've got the speed on, but it loses speed quickly under heavy manoeuvring. So you got to be careful with that. This area looks pretty flat, so I think we can go for a landing somewhere nearby. Let's just scope the area and decide where we want to put it down. And you'll see that this is actually very easy to get back on the ground again. Let's deselect our weapon stations, master arm off, and safe the guns. And I'll put on my landing light there. Okay, here we go. We've got a road here. Let's bring the power back. And come around. Yeah, especially with the engines idle. It really loses speed very quickly. Let's go gear down and flaps to the first stage. That's used for landing. Let's give it a bit of power. We're getting too slow. There we go. This looks good. I've got an area here that has a bit of road. Let's make use of that. Come around. Let the speed get nice and low. And we'll land just after this little bridge here. That'll do. That'll do. Oh, no, there's bloody wires. And I hit one of them. Oh well. That's why you should check your landing spots. Now, the aircraft does actually have a damaged model, but it seems to be very, very forgiving at the present time. It doesn't seem to mind bumping into things, as I've just demonstrated, as I knocked down some wires. So yeah, that's not how you would normally do that. Let's get back in the air, and I'll show you how to properly land this thing. So again, we're going to get it up to 100 knots and rotate. There we go. Up in the air. We'll get just a bit of altitude. That was pretty funny. Oh dear. Okay, so we're actually going to land in this green field off to the right here. We're going to avoid all these power lines and such like this time. So, we want the speed to be just over 100 knots during our approach. Bring the aircraft in nice and gently. And then we're going to hold it off just like you would with a general aviation aircraft at the end there. Okay, throttle to idle. Holding the nose high. Oof, there we go. That was nice. Nice and gentle. That's more like how you're supposed to do it. And the aircraft actually has reversers, but I've not managed to get them to work as yet. But the props can be reversed. And there we go. Brought it to a nice gentle stop there. Taxi light can come off. And then for engine shutdown, really, really simple. Bring your prop levers all the way back to idle, and then pop them into the shut-off position. And the engines will shut down. So, there you have it. The Split Air OV-10A Bronco. Really nice module. Another amazing community mod for DCS. Well worth a go. And consider donating to Split Air. When you go to download this module, there is an option to do so, or you can obtain it for 0 monies, if that's what you'd prefer. I think it's well worth some money. A very, very nice aircraft. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and comment. And also keep in mind that there is the option to join Deephack's ground crew by clicking the join button below. But thank you very much for watching, and please, fly safe.